Let's take a story trail that takes in the history of winemaking near Avoca. This photo shows us the original vines dating back to the late 1800s at Heddon Farm near Avoca. Winemaking is never simple. Great wines rely on a combination of climate, soils, human knowledge and persistence. Winemaking near Avoca is a story of all these elements. There are two epochs, the late 1800s, involving colonial vision and the pioneers. Two, the modern era, involving passion and experimentation. Your story trail will cover both of these and take you to historic locations of note. Your story trail starts at the information centre in the main street of Avoca. The time involved is 3 hours, the distance is about 20 kilometres and walks are very short. The main story points include Heddon Farm, Mackworth Wine Depot, Blue Pyrenees Winery, Mount Avoca Organic Wines and a return to Avoca. Story trails are best experienced using any mobile device with headsets. They are free to download and share. Mobile phone users should enable auto-rotate to allow landscape viewing. We will guide you to each story point along the trail. When you hear the wine cork, pause the video, then play at the next story point. Directions to your first story point. From Avoca, drive south along the Sunraysia Highway, B220, then turn right into the Pyrenees Highway, B180. Look for the Mount Avoca Wines sign. Turn right, this is Dawson's Road. At 112 Dawson Road is Heddon Farm on the right. Pause this video, then play to learn more about Heddon Farm. Edward Mackworth and his family settled on this block of virgin land about 2 kilometres west of Avoca, which was named Heddon Farm in 1860. The historic pioneer home has recently been restored. About 1887 he planted a small vineyard of 3/4 of an acre. The vines in the foreground are the original stock. You can only view Heddon Farm from the roadside only. In 1889, the state government appointed viticultural expert, Italian-born and trained, Romeo Bragato. He visited the area at Mackworth's invitation with a view to advising prospective owners on the suitability of the soils and climates for viticulture. Bragato raised the hopes of aspiring vignerons, claiming that Avoca was better adapted for wine growing than most districts in the colony. By 1890, 15 acres were cultivated. In the early 1900s, his sons joined him and they achieved great success overseas with their prize-winning red wines. By 1920, 40 acres of vines were being grown, producing 91,000 litres of wine. But problems arose. Local consumption was limited. With costs mounting and income falling, they found it difficult to afford the machinery necessary for an efficient business. The falling price of wine and the onset of prohibition resulted in the farm being sold to Mr. Dawson. The vines were ploughed in and it became a dairy farm. Directions to your second story point. From Heddon Farm, return to Avoca. Turn left into High Street, which is the main street. Look for 103 to 105 High Street, shortly on your left. Park safely. Pause this video, then play to learn about Mackworth's Wine Depot. These shops at 103 to 105 were associated with early winemaking. They served as a wine depot after Edward Mackworth was granted a colonial wine licence in 1898. Mackworth was one of 9 winemakers in the Shire, and his wines were distributed all over Victoria. Directions to your third story point. Proceed north along High Street. Look for the wineries and waterfall sign. This is Duke Street. Turn left, then right at the sports ground and continue along Vinoka Road for 7.5 kilometres. Park and stop at the end of the sealed road. Pause the video, then play to learn about the modern era. In 1963, the French company Remy Martin was set up to make a brandy under the Chateau Remy banner. The first wines they planted were Uni Blanc, but John Robb, the winery's first manager, began tinkering with famous French varietals like Shiraz in a process of trial and error. Today, red varietals and champagnes are the hallmark of the estate. Chateau Remy was renamed Blue Pyrenees Estate in 1982. Research indicates that the Pyrenees district is the third oldest of the state's wine-growing regions, preceded in time of its original plantings by only the Yarra Valley and Geelong. Make a U-turn and visit the Blue Pyrenees Estate. It is well signed. You would have passed it on the way to this location. John Robb was employed by Remy Martin to establish a vineyard and winery at Avoca. He cleared the land, planted the vineyards and built the winery. The Blue Pyrenees Estate is where experimental plantings of Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz and Merlot revealed special potential and the distinctive regional character. Wine was blended to emphasize the uniquely eucalypt mint characters of the Pyrenees region, when other winemakers were doing their level best to avoid it. Today his son, Neil Robb, continues the family wine heritage at Sally's Paddock Winery, just north of Avoca. The Blue Pyrenees Cellar Door is an ideal place to sample the estate's wines. They have a wonderful restaurant. Equally interesting is the small historic museum. It is fascinating. Take some time to relax. In 1970, Mount Avoca Estate was purchased by the Barry family, and it quickly became the next significant mark in the history of winemaking near Avoca. In the 1990s, the winery began to use native Australian insects to attack caterpillars and has since made use of other natural pesticides while avoiding fungicides. Matthew Barry, a second-generation owner and winemaker, has continued the environmental organic focus, a practice initiated by his father. Mount Avoca bears the prestigious status of a 5-star rated winery in the 2021 Halliday Wine Companion. Directions to return to Avoca. From Mount Avoca Winery, return to Vinoka Road. Turn right and return to Avoca. You could choose to extend your tour by visiting Forest Gate Winery at 122 Redpath Road on the outskirts of Avoca. We hope you enjoyed the history of winemaking near Avoca. Has your curiosity been rewarded? Feel free to share this story with friends. As always, happy trails! The History of Winemaking near Avoca Story Trail is an initiative of Advance Avoca. It is produced by Geotourism, and more story trails are available at avoca.vic.au.